Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 81, February 28, 2020. 2020 questions being asked about the deeper energies of Spirit Baby. What question do people have about Spirit Baby? What kind of healing tools and technique are being asked? How can Spirit Baby guide us daily? So about a week ago, in my Facebook group called Spirit Baby, A Conscious Connection with Spirit Baby, in this group of over 1,000 people, I proposed a question. And I believe I collected between this group and another group about 9 questions, and I asked for a name and where you're located around the world, because I know there's, everybody lives all over the place, which is so beautiful. That's what I love about social media. We connect all over the world in this way. We could do it psychically, which we do it, but this is a little bit different in this earth space. And so in this group, I wanted to ask the questions. I'd love to do a live show one day where I can get questions, but my fear is that there'll be just empty air if nobody comes. What if nobody comes and asks questions, and what would that look like? Because I'd really love to connect with real life people, is what I call it, and just people, their experiences of conception, pregnancy, birth, loss, really with Spirit Baby communication. I do feel like, as we are consciously, collectively, globally, I know there's a lot of suffering, fear, and pain, but there's also hope, love, and peace, and people are rising in so many different ways in their own conscious awareness, and it is very collective. We all need each other to kind of raise in this frequency of where it is that we're awakening to. And so I thought in my Q&A I had 10 questions, but I have 9. And how this works is I feel like I kind of scanned through the questions initially, so I may read them a little kind of awkward because I don't have a pre-answer to the questions. I don't do that. I'm not sitting here in my notes pre-typing it. Some people do that, and I've been on podcasts where they send me way too many notes. I just can't do it. That's not me. That's just not me. I love questions. I tell other interviews that I've done, just tell me whatever. Just ask me something and I'll see if I have an answer. I may not have an answer. I really believe in being, honest about whether there's an answer or not. And I do feel like in the New Age metaphysical parapsychology world, not so much parapsychology, but metaphysical New Age world, that there's these kind of predestined truths or templates to this is what is and this is what we think and this is what we feel, but we're not really sure. And so I feel like we're in a different time. 2020 is it's just not the way New Age was. I do feel like I remember in 2000, remember 2000? The systems were supposed to collapse. Oh my gosh, how long ago was that? And there was a collapsing happening, but it felt like, where's the new world? Where's the new world? And I feel like things have become so much more real and in our face in a way that we can't hide under the rock anymore. We can't go into the cave. We really have to be out and present to the world, especially if you're, you have the energy of the healer, the prophet, the seer, the system buster, the expressor, the creative muse. We have to put our consciousness and our energy out in a way that's accessible, that's aligned with love, authenticity, and service really to others. And that comes in different ways and at different times. And I do feel like, just this kind of new energy that we're in and how it's always changing. I know 2021 people are a little nervous about that. A lot of my intuitive, highly psychic ladies are feeling a little wavering around what is happening. Something feels like bigger chunks and bigger shifts of just consciousness are moving around. And that does create catastrophe, that's chaos. and bigger things. And it's hard to sit with that because our hearts get so cracked open to such degrees, but we have this resiliency, many of us, that our traumas don't have to be our identity. We get to expand and fill in the cracks with love as a community, as a sisterhood, as a brotherhood, and then go, and then merge our way through that. Sometimes we are this little sproutling and we feel weakened into our own rebirth, and then, here we go, I'm coming, and there's my budding flowers that are coming forth. So the Spirit Baby Q&A, the questions, here we go. The first question I received, and I know this woman, it's a very deep question, which, of course, is very personal. It said, "This is the last message I received from my baby during pregnancy. My baby most wants you to know that it's okay if it doesn't incarnate into you in this life. It will not be devastated. It does not want to come, and you both have an intention to be mother and child, and that's very strong. But sometimes the physical body cannot bring forth a viable vessel for the baby's soul. I want to know more about the role of intention. When there is an intention on both sides, both in this dimension and beyond, is this not in alignment with co-creating? Or put another way, if I long for a baby and a baby is longing for me, why does the physical matter? I believe we are limitless, and the energy of love can create new life in extraordinary circumstances. I still find it painful to accept being childless in this lifetime. Gratitude has been a big place in my life now, but it's only part of the healing. Please ask the spirit babies like mine that didn't come through, now what? The message of empowerment, never give up, doesn't seem to apply anymore. Any insight you can provide on this is helpful." Sylvie from, didn't I say Javi? I don't know how to say that city. Javi, Spain. I feel like there's a lot of questions in this question. Just starting from the beginning, kind of looking at this, let's see, the intention. Yeah, so this is the hard pieces, right? It's like, can we look at like a pie chart of like our consciousness on some level? Like, are we like 50% spirit, 30% physical, 50, 60, 80, 90, 20% emotional? I don't know. Those are not, I'm just throwing out numbers, but I feel like we're like the pie chart, right? We are a physical being, an emotional being, an intellectual being, and a spiritual being. Actually, we encompass probably 4 pieces of our own like inner pie existence. And I feel like what I know from my own experience in sitting with others weekly for many years, and even receiving new people all the time, and just new connections with people and their babies in spirit. I have found more recently, which is quite interesting, really, very recently, that some babies have a hard time merging with a physical vessel. And why is that? If they're so miraculous and mystical and magical, poof, shouldn't they just enter a body and be okay? Because what we do when we feel that way, we put this other, of course, babies are, souls are really beautiful and amazing and extraordinary, but what are we creating in this, between this world space? That are we, this is really the hard place. We tip on 2 ends, I feel like. We can really make them really earth and humanized, and they're really not. They're really not. It's a different vibration, a different consciousness. And at the same time, we want to hold accountability for their parts, right? Whatever their part is. And so in the behind the scenes, I would call it, we don't always know what their part is because we're actually not supposed to. We can sense our babies and our children's personality, our connection, but we really don't know ultimately, are they going to incarnate into this lifetime with this earth experience? And that is a hard one. Even me, who has worked with thousands of people, when I was moved into pregnancy for the first time, probably more naive and just a little disconnected and also terrified, really accepted that this being is coming to me with his own agenda, his own form, and our whatever we're co-creating, right? And then the second time, same thing. I had hesitancy of like, well, maybe he won't come. Like, spirit baby medium doesn't know everything. Maybe, he has another mission, or what is it that I know about him? I know his personality, his energy, and his own soul. sensitivity, but there are pieces where I actually feel really good about, and we should all practice that, feeling good and really in alignment that this soul that we've probably most likely shared lifetimes with, coming into this physical body in a certain way for whatever this, lesson of life is about in this, again, co-creative, and we don't know the lifetime of that. We don't know if our children will have short-lived lives or very long lives. We have no idea. And we're not supposed to know all those different pieces. And there is a huge level of mystery by far. And so I may have gone off on a little bit of a tangent there because I just got so inspired. But moving down into the question more about the intention. So that's what I was going back into. So the two things that recently I've seen is a girl was going to come through IVF, and she felt like it was a clashing of energy for her to join the embryo. I don't know why that is. She felt that way. Some things, when babies pause and they get very quiet with me, they don't want to fill in the rest of the information. And there's a reason for that. There's an experience that's kind of unfolding and happening for everybody. And there's no interference in that, right? So your baby wants to be a part of your life, and you want to be a part of your baby's life. So are you co-creating on some level? Yes. But what happens when that being doesn't take on an earth body? This is the fear of a lot of women with infertility. What if, right? We can sit in different ways and look at different things and really opening ourselves to motherhood arriving in the way that feels the most aligned. I've seen women that have gone 10 years until they moved into motherhood, whether that was through adoption, partially so, their own physical body as a womb space, through surrogacy, things they never would have thought about. So I do feel like when you're enchanted and aligning to Spirit Baby World in so many ways, doing the meditation, really connecting, I do feel like there's different levels and frequencies that merge together. And that, I'm sure you could be a mother to a light-bodied baby, a light-bodied child. Well, and that we can even shift into death. There's a lot of women that nurse and love and connect with their light child, their light baby, their dead child. Dead sounds so harsh, right? But we want to be honest about it, with miscarriage, stillbirth, infancy loss. And then there's that piece in there as well. And you can look at what does the physical matter. It takes a certain level of conscious awareness and connection to understand that. And let's see more of this question. Of course, feeling the painfulness of, in this lifetime, maybe I will be childless. And I know there's some women that do feel regret or other emotions that rise, or feel good about it. It depends on the person and what they're looking at and what acceptance and closure is built around that. But sometimes if you've always wanted a family and a child or children, there's definitely a grieving that continues to be very present in the spaces around you. And I do feel like there's a purpose to everything, even if we don't know it. It may take a lifetime to discover this inner wisdom of purpose of when we open to create things and they don't show up maybe the way we have demanded them to or planned them to. And I love how you talk about gratitude. Of course, is a big place, a big energy in your space right now. So please ask spirit babies like mine that didn't come through, now what? Such a big question. As I said, exactly, now what? This is a question you may have to propose quite often in your space and listen, right? This is the hard part, because when there's been consistent disappointment and fear around loss or possibility, we become disenchanted. Our hearts feel like they become broken, but we can either see them as broken into pieces that are unsalvageable, or we can see how the pieces have regrown together in a different way, in a different awareness. And so ultimately, it is the perception of how you view what is next on your journey. Is motherhood not meant to be your plan? Is the purpose something greater that hasn't been received and witnessed? Or is it being received and witnessed but still holding to some old idea or fantasy or truth that may or may not have that connection to family creation? such deep, inquisitive places to explore and go into. And of course, the empowerment message, never give up, doesn't seem to apply anymore. What does that mean, giving up? Sitting with that. Is there the giving up of motherhood? Even though motherhood arrives in so many different ways, can motherhood still be an available opportunity? And where's that mothering energy, that vortex, that connection, that healing that is kind of continuing to evolve around your own conscious awareness and in your partnership? And if you're in partnership, there's two energies in that collective purpose. So thank you for that question, Silva, I think that's how I say it. The next question I have too here is, I recently came to understand that through intentionally connecting with my spirit baby, Nathan, we get to make new memories together. Something that seemed impossible and amazes me now when I reflect on all the things we have done together, in quotes, since he departed his physical body. I would welcome validation, of course, but what I would love is perspective from his spirit side about this. Oh, a very big question, very personal, and of course, this came from, I put L, Washington, and I know this person, so I know a little bit of her backstory, which could be a little confusing if you don't know the backstory. This divine woman experienced a stillbirth loss. I believe it was over 10 years ago, and she's working on, and she has other Earthside children, and she's working on herself in so many beautiful ways and connecting with her son, still building that relationship over this time and, feeling who she was when it happened to who she's become now. And there's still curiosity. There's still expanded questions, right? Because this is what happens when we have loss and death. We have so many questions, and those questions change. And our sense of purpose around our loss changes. I know that for me personally, coming up to 3 years of my double loss, I should say, and I feel like everyone knows this on the podcast. My mother passed away, and I want to say sudden, but she was sick forever. But it's still sudden. It was an accident, like what happened. And it just, pushed her closer to death. And then within 3.5 weeks later, my older brother just suddenly died, right? It's like, what is happening in my world? And so I'm coming up to the 3-year death anniversaries and birthdays, and I feel such an incredibly different awareness coming through me that I've been very surprised by, and just how this connection to grief and what its role is. And I want to say it's more than just time. It's like, it's being with it. And so when there's stillbirth, when there's infancy loss, like being with the death. Nobody wants to sit at the tea table, pour a cup of tea for death, and look at this world, because it feels frightening, it feels terrible, it feels traumatizing. But that's what we've created as a culture, and that has a lot to do with just how we care for those that have died, whether it's a baby, whether it's a child or an adult. And so we're all scattered trying to figure out and understand so many parts of this. And more than anything, people just need compassion and love. And so, I want to validate, yes, you are connecting with this beautiful little spirit boy, your child, in so many different ways, and creating the next level of your relationship to who you are and to who he is. And you may sense how his energy changes over time, and how times you feel very connected to be speaking with him, and other times you may not. And that is just like life. That is just like relationship. And that is valuable. And so I hope there's some sense of validation in that. And, what his perspective is from spirit side, that is what you're sitting and connecting with him in so many different ways. I know that I've connected with different spirits, and they've shared with me about their life to their parents in ways so their parents can understand. But I almost feel like, honestly, I'm highly clairsentient, and so when I'm being felt into this world, I'm just enchanted by it. The feeling is hypnotically it's like a hypnotic energy massage. I'm just like entranced by the beauty and grace and love of it. And babies will share different things in different ways to try to get the message of it, because I honestly feel like in our earth world, our brains and our mind, our nervous system, they just function so differently. And so for us to receive things energetically into our consciousness, it's hard for us to find a language for it. And this is what I've been practicing over the years on all my clients. I love it. It's like we're practicing on all the people I see, because that's really what it comes down to. I need to practice with different people to see what is this. And some people are more open and more soul expanded, I feel like, and other people are just not, or there's not a resonance all the time with everybody. That's just the truth of it. It's like, oh, okay. There's no judgment of like, oh, I'm better and you suck, or, I suck and you're better. It's more of just like, oh, we're different people. We have different consciousnesses. And so the perspective of that spirit being will be really relayed differently. And, if you met me years ago, I had a different perception around the death world of babies and how they communicated and connected. It's so different after I've experienced my death, and I've seen things. The way my brother and my mother have shown me about this other world, it really almost feels impossible to put into words. But we try, right? We try. A lot of mediums, we're trying, but it's just like being with the experience of it. It's kind of like if I told you to go outside, sit under that gorgeous tree with the sun and the breeze, hearing the birds and seeing the little squirrels running around. You feel the experience of it, and it's like a part of you, and you're like, oh, I want to bottle this up, but you can't. It's the same idea, I feel like, in spirit world with a lot of these most gorgeous messages and insights I've seen from babies that have, in the other life, or even just babies even coming in from before life. It's like hard to capture the exact right verbiage of it. 3, how do you keep the faith, remain open, be patient during an often long and uncertain fertility journey? I find it so hard. This is from Joe from the UK. Yes, Joe, you are not alone. And it is hard to keep the faith, and this is where I feel like many women is collective. You are joining together, having commonality, having spiritual awareness. And I don't know, Joe, it just feels like just even reading this and, I feel like I know you have a collective community of people, but there's something that feels really strong around your question. Not just people that have sympathy for you, but people that really understand this psychic world in a way where there's a commonality between you and these people. Because what that does, if you sit in meditation, whether it's long distance, whether it's online, you are tuning into each other's vibration. And so this is why we say women with infertility, right, which you can be infertile and then be completely fertile. It's not the end-all diagnosis. But women that are dealing with infertility need to hang out with pregnant women, need to be in the presence of creation of that synergistic energy. Especially if you're empathic, it's even more of a bonus, because your emotional state is locking in. Your cells are responding to that connection of energy. They call that in somatic psychology, or even just in psychology, empathic resonance, where you can stand before people and your body is connecting with each other. Physiologically, it's not just an imagination or a thought or an idea. There's actually chemistry that happens, which is why we don't like to hang out with negative people, which is why we feel overwhelmed when there's sick people, right? It's like, oh boy. This is why I live in the mountains, in my little nook here, in this healing room, I call it. I can look at the window and I see the beautiful oak tree that speaks all the time. Apparently a medium told me. Maybe I don't listen to it all the time, but it's there and it's gorgeous and I love it. And so keeping the faith, inspiration, reading the books, podcasts, staying close to this group. Come into the group. I know it could be very vulnerable to share, because some women feel we have to take care of everybody, so nobody wants to feel like they're quote unquote dumping. But, that could be a good post. Maybe I'll get the conversation going. Like, how do you keep the faith when you feel like shit's hit the fan, or you're in a slump? because, year after year after year, it is going to grate on your consciousness. It is going to wear you out to some level. But it doesn't mean it's over. I've seen women conceiving after 3, 5, 7, even 10 years. I've seen this happen. And it's hard to feel like you want to give up on so many different levels. But then this other part inside you is just yelling at you to just be continuing, connecting with your higher self, with any other energies that want your attention, and being in the mystery and being in the love of it. So be continuing to be where you need to be. Like, yes, there are days, again, you're slipping down into that dark place. And other days you recognize the gratitude and the light. 4, how to trust the messages I am receiving. Distinguish them from my thoughts. First messages received. I second guess a lot. Garima from Canada. I know her too quite well. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's the thought process. So I feel like when there's an overthinking of fear, of, other gunk that gets in the way, that's just your subconscious stuff. You're working stuff out. You have a thought process. But the messages are just like intuition. It comes very clearly, very swiftly. It's not second guessing. It's not giving you repetitive answers. And what we do with Spirit Baby is, give me another answer. That one was really great and I loved it, but give me another one because I kind of believe that one, but I want to hear it again because I want to make sure that, and I say, okay, what's that part? That's the part you got to go, okay, yeah, that part doesn't have to be in the space. And so this is where you get to go, oh, okay. That's just a part of my thought process. And it's a practice. It really is, because once you really allow this other psychic awareness to be more in your expanded space, that becomes more of the leader. And you can do this with meditation, even with channeled writing, with Spirit Baby, with your higher self, and really trusting, where is this message coming from? Where is this energy coming from? Because if you're living in the doubt of, oh, I don't know where this message is coming from, it's like, I'm just making it up, then that's just going to be a reality. Then you're going to be missing out on so much. So just, again, the practice of where your vibration is desired to be a part of. 5, I should say thank you. Thank you for that question. The past 3 ladies, thank you. 5, basic tips on how to connect and communicate with Spirit Baby in meditation through art, music, and yoga. ? This is from Stephanie, New Brunswick, Canada. So, basic tips. Of course, meditation, that's the number one thing, right? And there's all kinds of Spirit Baby meditations too. Visualization, feeling, sensing Spirit Baby meditation, heart meditation with Spirit Baby. I can be really creative. I could probably come up with 50 Spirit Baby meditations right now because it's fun for me and I could feel into the energy. What I love to do, and many may know this or not, when I work with others daily, like weekly, let's say I do have more than a few people that I see on a weekly or a bi-weekly or even further, because we're not just talking to Spirit Baby the whole time. We're actually looking at the energy and the connection in the body, the emotional space. I get to use my somatic psychology skills in that and my energy psychology skills. And so I notice with a lot of the meditations I do mini meditations with a lot of the people that I see, and I feel like in these mini meditations, they're very connected to the person. Because I find myself surprised going, oh, that sounds like a good meditation. And I've actually told someone, this is a good meditation. Can I share this with someone else? And I'll say that it was someone else. It was your energy that really created, because people really inspire me. And so I feel like maybe there'll be a book someday on, all these a million tips on Spirit Baby. What could I do to connect with my baby? And that would be really fun and beautiful to have. So meditation, I would say, number 1, meditation, do it, get there. Start with your own meditation with yourself, but then do it with baby as well. Those are 2 separate meditation experiences. Art, it's called psychic artistry, yes. Music, of course. I've had Spirit Babies tell me, and I didn't know that people were musical. I'm like, baby's showing me you playing a guitar. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a musician. I play a guitar. I'm like, well, that's how baby wants to communicate with you. You go into this hypnotic music space and baby attunes to you. Yoga could be really great, but you have to see it's a yoga practice about movement and stretching and your body. You can definitely learn certain yogas, I'm sure, that are more about exercise, but more about maybe Kundalini yoga, looking at the energy and just being more silent and meditative. So I feel like you kind of got it right here. There are different ways. There's also journaling, writing, channeling, which is either through prompts of journaling, whether that's also included in not prompts as well, because sometimes you just get inspired and the writing kind of goes. Also, you can create artistically through paintings. I've had people send me pictures of their paintings, their sketchings, or coloring books is really good. I did a great podcast back in January, and Woman Wisdom, Woman Wisdom Artistry, and it's coloring pages with baby, and so those are really great and really fun. What other art projects? Mixed media, sculpting. And there was a time where I started sculpting all these pregnant bellies way before my second pregnancy. I was just so into it. I also have mixed media of spirit babies and clay and crystals. You could definitely connect in that way, especially if you're moving into creativity and expanded self-awareness around it. And I'm sure there's other ways in there, too, of communicating with baby, not just sitting in the meditative space, but that's what a lot of people like to do, because it's like, it feels like, oh, I could sit there and then build around that, and then build all these other creative outlets around that. It's very helpful and healing. 6, I've lost a son, Easton, who was stillborn at 38 weeks, and I had 11 miscarriages. That was also a boy. I keep dreaming about a baby girl. Is this the same spirit? Is it a different spirit? When me and this baby girl are together, I know she's mine because she just looks like me. I'm so ready to conceive her. When will she be ready? Jenny, Harrison Township, Michigan. So sorry for the loss. And this is, multiple losses. No, maybe not 11 weeks. Oh, no, 11 weeks. I thought I said 11 miscarriages. I hope I didn't say it like that. 11 weeks miscarriage. That was a boy. My mind just got twisted for a moment. I'm like, did I say 11 miscarriages? There actually have been some people that have had more than 10 miscarriages that have come to me. And so, Easton, sweet boy, a lot of times, which is very common, that there is a correlation between souls. And that's something that you could sit with to see what the answer is around that. And whatever you're feeling is probably the most accurate. And it's okay to dream about this baby girl. Sometimes the soul is in between being a boy or a girl, and there could be just a whole other soul ready to be a part of your life that is more of this girl energy and something that you're paying attention to. And again, it's different for different people. So sometimes it's the same soul, sometimes it's not. And if you're not sure, it's okay. You just be in the curiosity of it. Be in the openness of it to see if there's more to that. And as you receive different messages and different feelings, you'll be able to kind of expand into more your intuitive space, as well as communication with your son is very important, because it really is feeding you and providing you with this, whatever this, traumatic unfolding that happened in your life. Let's see. Of course, I'm so ready to conceive her. When will she be ready? I wish I could just give you that answer right now. But that's, to me, I don't just pop out answers with people unless there's very, very strong messages that have to come through, which is not very common. I have to sit with people's energy and really it feels invasive if I don't. I'm like sitting with your energy. There's an intention and to look at all these different pieces. And so you can continue to prepare for her and be in the mystery of it and, connect with Spirit Baby overall, connect with your own meditative practice and whatever other healing tools and tips that are helping you just kind of stay open and be able to receive what your next conception into pregnancy is like. Okay, thank you. Oh, if I say thank you before to the other question. Thank you. So I have a few more questions here. 7, at what point do I give up on trusting my gut messages? I have received about getting pregnant naturally and start medical intervention. Tia, Long Beach, California. So this is a tricky one, right? Because intervention doesn't mean you've failed. This is the hard piece. I know a lot of women come to me and they've gone through intervention, whether it's IUI, IVF, hormones, embryo adoption, you fill in the blank. There's a lot of ways to intervene, right? And intervention, it is unnatural. But it doesn't mean that just because it's unnatural doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose and that it has value. And some women will go through a very long journey of infertility with unknown reason. And so some women choose not to intervene, and some do become pregnant. A lot of them do, actually. And then there's a mystery of like, what was that about? And other times there is some deeper stuff happening where it's like, oh, well, you know, the ovaries are tired, the fallopian tubes don't work, or there's endometriosis, or there's things that are maybe high levels of endometriosis, I should say, because women do conceive with endometriosis. Or there's some other, you know, aging of the eggs, or the sperm isn't so sharp and spunky. And so intervention can be really a blessing, but it depends how the intervention is being received. It's like where you're putting your energy in that environment. So this is where the tricky piece is, because I work with a lot of women that go through intervention, and how I've seen it throughout the years and how I've created the connection to be of support in that way is there is a process in it, and there's a level of stillness and really moving slow on the journey, because not everything is going to work for everybody. So you're being pumped with hormones. Let's say you're going through IVF and you're going through retrieval, pumped with different hormones. Some women have reactions that are almost allergic to certain things inside the injections. That's you being intuitive and going, oh, my body's having an allergic reaction. This is not a part of it. So there has to be a tweaking, a changing, and shifting. I almost feel like there's not one way to conceive through intervention, and you can definitely sit and go deeper in there, because there is going to be fear around intervention, because it's like, whoa, intervention feels intense. And then other times it feels like, you know, you get to change your mind, let's say. You get to say, I'm going to do this, and then you get to go, no, I'm not going to do that. You get to experiment a little bit on what that looks like for you and pay attention to it. You may need to journal more about it, meditate with it. And then sometimes there's a point where you have to just kind of do it. This is what I do with some of my ladies. It's like they're kind of scared on the fence, but it's like you can always experiment and then come back if it's not going to be something you want to do. And there are very light interventions that can be done versus more intensified interventions. So something to explore instead of keeping it in your head, right? Because then if it's in your head and you're not sure, it's like, let me just take the step forward and see, like you're ready to create your family in this different way, and maybe there is some support and needed help that you need, and you're going to show up for it without overthinking it. Thank you for that question. 8. If conscious conception is what is ideal with positive thoughts and intention and vision, then how do you do that when you are told to forget about getting pregnant and not think about pregnancy? And this is at all. This is from Hemi from the UK. I know. That's a tricky one, too. You know, I like to use the word tricky. You know, if you're a conscious conception, then you're doing all these conscious actions. You're paying attention to your conception, but then you're not supposed to think about getting pregnant, right? But then how does pregnancy happen? I guess it really is about wording. It really depends, because when women and couples are in a conscious conception, they've signed up, they've joined their energy on, it doesn't mean you have to think about pregnancy all the time, actually. Conscious conception is talking about parenthood, talking about having a baby. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be like every single day you are invested, you've signed your life into what that is. So I feel like, yeah, you can be, welcoming and inviting of spirit baby energy. And of course, you're creating your body's wellness for it, and you're doing whatever emotional and spiritual work that is being asked of you over that time. So I almost feel like you kind of move in and out of it. You could think about pregnancy a lot, and that's fine. But then other times you have to fall into a place where you don't. And you can even think about that now. I feel like many women in conception and pregnancy, well, pregnancy is different, but in conception, you will think about it from time to time. And other times you go about your life and be a part of the world that you're not always actively, it's this thing that's just always going. And so you kind of move in between what it is and what it is not. Thank you for that question. My final question, we're coming down to here, number 9. Does Spirit Baby drop hints when it's time to come? For those of us pursuing assisted reproduction, will there be an intuitive hit that says, go! Exclamation, or is that a fantasy? This is from Hamilton, Ontario. So, does Spirit Baby drop hints? Well, Spirit Baby can drop hints to some people. Sometimes they will not drop hints, or if they do, we miss the hints. It's a very common one. And for those of us pursuing assistance, will there be... So this is the tricky thing. So I feel like when there's, assistance in reproduction, whether it's IUI, IVF, or other interventions, there can definitely be a strong intuitive hit. But I find what happens with a lot of women, they get scared. And fear becomes very persuasive. So what happens is the intuition is kind of shoved down a little bit, and it's not intentional. It's just fear can be very persuasive. And so I've worked with a lot of different women that have come very early on in their process of conception, and they feel intuitively, this is it, I know this is going to happen. And I've seen that happen for them exactly as they said, whether it was through IVF or through natural. And then I've seen other women that have been on a very long journey, and they just kind of feel disenchanted, tired, and confused. And so in that space, there's still intuition, but it's become muffled. It's become kind of derailed a little bit in a way that then there's so much second guessing that there's a lack of inner faith and trust. And so I feel like that's a really good question. I feel like a lot of people have a very curiosity around that. And there are levels of fantasy, of course. There's a fantasy of becoming a millionaire, maybe, a fantasy of being super strong and running light in your body. It's the fantasies of eating cake and never getting sugar high. There's fantasies of natural conception, and maybe the intervention is needed. I feel like fantasies is a really positive energy to me, because when we're fantasizing or daydreaming, a lot of times we're actually not fantasizing and daydreaming. A lot of times those are psychic premonitions and hits, but that's a whole other practice that people miss out on. And I have so many stories around that for myself and others. And so we have to watch our inner psychic space, our clairvoyant space, if you have it. It's like there's information and things are being put into imagery all the time, and there's a lot of truth to it. And so, if this is you on your journey, really see, if you get that intuitive hit, and allowing the fantasy to be a part of the energy. Well, thank you for that question. There were so many really amazing questions that came up. I know some were more personal, and I'm hoping that those that have shared, thank you so much for sharing your intimate, vulnerable questions and your name and where you live around the world, as well as being a part of the group, the Facebook group, which I feel like has been very positive for a lot of people. And this is the Spirit Baby, a conscious connection with Spirit Baby. Also, I have another Facebook group, and I know you can find the links on my website underneath. I don't think they're in the actual podcast. I don't think you can't write that much information. I also have a specific group for birth loss, the Afterlife of Spirit Baby - Healing, Connections, and Love. And you can find that through both groups. I also have a third group, which is a little different. It's a medical intuition, and it's the science and spirit of wellness, which is really, you could bring baby stuff there, but it's really about the energetic and the science of the body and exploring, that part of the journey. And so I would like to thank you for joining. And if you like my podcast, please subscribe, leave reviews. And if you want to learn more about my services and supporting people all around the world for private one-on-one sessions, online classes, programs, private VIP retreats, I also have, I feel like I don't push this enough, I have a journal. It is called Sacred Communication, a Spirit Baby Journal, and it has 5 beautiful chapters that has prompting questions to write, to express, whether you're in conception or pregnancy. And this journal you can get from my website under Spirit Baby Journal. And again, I was going to say there's another book that I'm writing, and that maybe that'll be in a complementary to the journal, but this will be more about what the Spirit Baby realm is all about, what it's looking for in the future of 2020. Thank you all for joining.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.